And this day, this week, this time of year in Nashville now comes with new feelings, Ben.
It does, Amy. Anger, sadness, hope, and renewal, really all the feelings this morning. And as a parent with two young children myself, with all these emotions, it's so important for us to process them as parents, because for our children, they may need us now more than ever before. So I turned to my good friend, the executive director of Daystar Counseling, Sissy Goff. She helped us all a year ago. She's going to help us a year later, because these emotions are ever present. It's a wave. So she has tips on helping us handle some of these emotions that are ever present for us and our children. She gave me 5 ways we can support kids in the remembrance of the Covenant School tragedy. Number 1, if age appropriate, talk about the day, even if your kids are hesitant to, because she says it's better to process those feelings than to hide them. 2, help them find a way to remember and give to someone impacted. If your family has lost someone you loved, honor that person together. Pray for each family by name and for our beloved Covenant School community. Number 4, remember that kids grieve in doses and it shifts along with their development. And lastly, give them permission and yourself permission to feel all the things.
On this day, it's so important to remember that all feelings are normal. There's not a feeling that any of us can have that we shouldn't be having or is foreign. And I think our community is still grieving together, and we're going through this process. And of course, we're going to feel like, why wasn't it my child's school? How did this happen to them? And I think in that, I think anytime we're grieving, I just have been doing some extra research on grief lately. And, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was the psychiatrist that in 1969 came up with the 5 stages of grief. And there is a psychologist named David Kessler who has recently added a 6th stage, which I think is really fascinating, and it's meaning. And so in all of the things that we're feeling and giving our kids, giving ourselves space to feel it all, I think I want us to keep thinking about how can we move towards meaning? How can we think about how do we continue to give to this precious school, to these families?
And speaking of grief, this week, Sissy posted this quote from the late Dr. Catherine Kuntz, who lost her life protecting her students here at the Covenant School, on her Instagram. And I wanted to share what Sissy shared from Dr. Kuntz. It is so powerful. It inspired me and filled me with hope, and I hope it does the same for you. Here's that quote from Dr. Kuntz. When you've walked through a period of honest grief, you experience God in a way you wouldn't wish on anyone else, but in a way you never could have without the loss. You don't know that when you're going through it. God doesn't immediately say, this is going to be good, like people often do. He just sits there with you in it. And the ministry of his presence is healing. He's not necessarily giving you great pearls of wisdom, but the ministry of his long-term presence is healing. That's Dr. Kuntz from the book, When Your Family's Lost a Loved One. Thank you, Dr. Kuntz, and thank you, Sissy, for helping us heal. And our colleague, Hannah McDonald, sent us an email this week and talked about what we should know when covering this again, because this is personal for her as well. She wanted us to know that there is no thing as closure. We talk about that. We make the mistake here, even in the media, of talking about closure. That doesn't exist. There is no closure for families and loved ones. But grief is often cyclical. It's not linear, as Sissy Goff told me, and that's okay to feel all of those things.